How's it going, guys? It's Kass. As always, if you've been enjoying my content, then hit that subscribe button. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the specific build that I've been playing, but I want to make a disclaimer. Just because I pick a specific build does not mean it's significantly better than any other options, or that it's the best build specifically. I pick builds based off of my character, the stats that my character has, and the builds that I enjoy playing. In previous expansions, the builds that you were choosing were more based off of the systems that they had put into the game. The thing that makes Shadowlands great when it comes to builds is there should be a lot more build diversity in the game overall, because there's not specific systems that pigeonhole you into a specific build. When we think about BFA, we had Azurite pieces in the Azurite trait system, and that basically made you pick the build that you were picking because of the traits you had access to. When you think back to Legion, we had raid set bonuses, and that specifically is what made you pick the build that you were going just because of the bonus that the set was giving you. Shadowlands systems don't really push you into one specific direction. With some classes you have legendaries that do that, but with Demon Hunter specifically, there's not really a legendary option that's going to push you one way or the other, except for maybe Chaos Theory pushing you towards a First Blood style build. But even with Chaos Theory, there could be some specific theoretical things that you can do with Cycle of Hatred that allow for Chaos Theory to still work well in a Cycle of Hatred style build. So with that being said, please do not copy the build that I'm playing if your character is significantly less geared than mine. I would encourage you to test my build, but I would also encourage you to test other options and play the one that you personally enjoy. You're going to get a lot more out of the game if you're playing something you like to play, rather than something someone else tells you is the best option. With that being said, I'm going to go through my specific builds and some of the other specific options you can do row by row for each talent. For the first row, we have Blinding Fury, Demonic Appetite, and Fellblade. I'm not going to specifically go through what each of these individually do. I'm going by this video basically that you are a Demon Hunter player already. If you are not a Demon Hunter player already, then I would suggest leveling the character, understanding what these abilities do before you actually go ahead and copy the build that I'm doing. I specifically chose Blinding Fury just because of the amount of fury that you're getting whenever you're pressing I-Beam. It allows you to have a full bar of fury to spend when you're in the most possible hasted situation for the class. If you're having some issues with survivability and you want some layer of defensive, I would suggest playing Demonic Appetite. That way the souls can be a layer of defense. Whenever they pop out, you heal with them 10% at a time. It's a pretty good option. And lastly, we have Fellblade. Fellblade is one of the talents that I personally don't enjoy playing too much, mostly because it forces you to play Demon's Blades with it. I don't think you would ever really take Fellblade in a situation where you're not running Demon's Blade. Demon's Blade is something that requires a lot of haste to be relatively good and feel good, and that's kind of why I don't enjoy playing that playstyle. After row 1, we go to the next row. Insatiable Hunger is just a very good option in general. It gives us extra fury to generate, so it makes it so you have to press Demon's Bite less. It also gives you an increased damage on Demon's Bite, which will lead to just a general damage increase when pressing the button. I think if you're playing a character that doesn't have that much haste, it's a very good option just because it lowers the amount of time that you actually have to press Demon's Bite. For my build specifically, I take Burning Hatred because Burning Hatred is a supplemental fury generator. And basically how it works is you can use it in situations where you know you're going to be spending, but don't want to be pressing Demon's Bite. I've been using my Immolation Aura specifically after I run out of Fury with the Furious Gaze portion, or with the Blinding Fury portion while I still have Furious Gaze. This allows me to continue to be able to press Chaos Strikes and not have to press as many Demon's Bites. And next we have Demon Blades. Demon's Blade, like I said, it's alright. It's one of those things that as we get further along in the expansion, it'll become a better option. But currently I don't really see a reason to take this unless you have a absolute ton of haste. This third row is the most contentious, but honestly the most obvious choice. When it comes to this third row, Trial of Ruin is a decent option, but it is not nearly as good as it used to be just because of the target capping of Blade Dance. Realistically, if you get the maximum benefit out of Trial of Ruin, it may be better than Glade Tempest, but in a single target scenario, it's just never going to be better than Glade Tempest. Next is Unbound Chaos. They completely killed this talent. This talent is awful. It's basically never going to outdamage Glaive Tempest or Trial of Ruin. Realistically, I do not think you should ever take this talent. I don't think it's a good talent, and I hope that they do some changing to make this at least do a little bit more damage so it's somewhat competitive. Then lastly, we have the best option, which is Glaive Tempest. Glaive Tempest is just doing a lot more damage than the other options. Obviously, it has a Fury cost, but that Fury cost is supplemented by just not pressing Blade Dance in some of the other build situations. They also made this stack with Mastery, and Mastery is a very interesting thing with Demon Hunter. I think I'll probably make a video about it separately, just to talk about some of the potential breakpoints for it. Realistically, Glaive Tempest is just the best option in this row. If you're playing Demon Hunter, you're going to want to be playing Glaive Tempest currently. This middle row is just a defensive row. Choose whichever one you personally feel like using. I like Soul Rending just because it's something that you don't have to really worry about. Next is really just a build defining row here. You have Cycle of Hatred. That is just going to give you more access to I-Beam, get you in Demonic more. Then you have First Blood. That's going to make your Blade Dance a button that you actually want to press now. It makes it so you're going to be pressing Blade Dance off cooldown, and it synergizes particularly well with Chaos Theory. Last option in this row is Essence Break. I made a video about this previously. Realistically, this talent is just not a good talent to take. The amount of damage that you get from this talent is never going to be enough to surpass First Blood, so it's not really that great of an option. The 45 row is basically just choose whichever one you like. I personally like Unleash Power just because it gives us more access to Chaos Nova, and Chaos Nova now has a 30% chance to give you a lesser soul fragment, and realistically that can be something that will save your life in some PvP situations. Master the Glaive is always a good option when you're playing versus double range, just to slow them down and get you there a little bit faster. And lastly, Fell Eruption is just a good option if you're lacking a stun. It just generally gives you more access to CC, so it's just a pretty good option. Finally, we have another build defining row. Demonic is my favorite choice and going to be something you're going to be taking every single time you're playing Cycle of Hatred, obviously, because if you're getting more access to I-Beam, you're going to want to have more Demonic. Then obviously we have Momentum for those that enjoy playing Momentum style builds. If you're playing a Momentum style build, you're going to want to play First Blood and not Cycle of Hatred. Momentum's actually in a pretty good spot. It's some of the highest simming damage so far. When it comes to sims specifically, I wouldn't trust them as much as most people do with other classes, just because Demon Hunter is a lot harder to judge. Then lastly, we have the odd man out. Fell Barrage is just not a good button to press here. It doesn't really give us any benefit to the class whatsoever. It's just not good. I think there could be some situations in like a PvP meme build, if you stack a ton of mastery, that the potential burst that you get from it could be pretty cool, but I don't think this option will ever be a meta pick for any style of build for Demon Hunter. And that's pretty much it. If you just pick the options that I feel are pretty good, you'll have a build that works perfectly fine for you. I would suggest finding builds that have inherent synergy, like I said with Cycle of Hatred, obviously always playing Demonic. But what it comes down to is you want to be testing these specific builds for your character. You don't want to just listen to me and go by what I use, because it might not be that great for your specific character. Also, for PvP specifically, I've heard a lot of people talk about just generally how Demon Hunter feels like they just fall over. I would suggest picking talents that are more defensive and also making sure that you have as much versatility as possible. When you have both of these trinkets equipped, it makes your versatility 40% better. And it'll basically make it so versatility is turned into PvP power and PvP resilience. And this will be the difference between your character surviving and your character not surviving. And that's really one of those things that you just have to understand how it works. And then once you understand how it works, the character feels much better in a PvP environment. Anyways, I hope this helped you guys. I hope it gave you an idea of what talent builds you have access to, and hopefully it'll lead to you doing some more testing and figure out the best option for your specific character. As always, if you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't like the video, F5, refresh, try it again, maybe like it the second time. Have a good one.